The crocodilian order is one of Earth's oldest and most iconic lineages. For more than 300 million years, they've played the ecological role of implacable apex predator. In the ancient Permian swamps, in the plains and the forests of the Mesozoic, and the tropical and subtropical regions of the world today, the crocodilians were the top predators. They've persisted and adapted across 500 million years of natural selection. As a lineage, they've survived every mass extinction event they've ever experienced. Some smaller lineages were trimmed off, of course, but the larger gene pool persisted, coming out of each extinction event by radiating and diversifying. So fearsome and powerful were these massive carnivorous beasts that they've been featured as gods and demons in human mythology since we first evolved as a sapient species. 100 million years ago, the crocodilian ancestors were eating our tree-dwelling ancestors right out of the trees, and today they remain one of the few clades that include species that will naturally prey on humans. In summary, the crocodilian lineage has always been defined by these bulky, powerful predatory bodies, with a fossil record full of nightmarish skulls and full skeletons the size of which you would not believe, but more on that later. Although this fossil record speaks of a rich and diverse history, the modern crocodilians are the only surviving descendants. This isn't to say that they're endangered, as they have a multi-continental distribution and are some of the sturdiest creatures out there. I mean, as long as there are herbivores that need to come to a river to drink, the crocodilians will exist. So their basic body form is that of a bulky, squat, elongated tetrapod, with long tails and long, flat snouts. The crocodilians are armed with sharp claws, stabbing teeth, and powerful muscles, especially in their jaws, and they're armored with thick, non-overlapping scales. They've evolved to have their eyes, ears, and nostrils on the top of their head, so that they can float just under the water, pretending to be some kind of floating log, or so that they can submerge themselves almost entirely, but just have their eyes and nostrils protruding from the surface of the water. They even have multiple layers of eyelids, with one of these eyelids called a nictitating membrane. In these crocodilians, this membrane is semi-transparent, so the crocodiles are actually able to keep this nictitating membrane closed, but see through it like they're wearing goggles. Thus, they can creep up on and surprise elephants, or primates, or any kind of ungulate that comes to the river to drink. When their jaws clamp down on their prey, the powerful muscles apply many hundreds, if not several thousand pounds of pressure per square foot. This is the basic premise of the crocodilian animal, its basic body form. The most variation that we see between species exists in the morphology of their snout and their teeth, in their scale coloration, and in their body size. This last variable is what we'll be looking at today, in this video of the world's 10 largest crocodilians. Starting at number 10, we have the slender snouted crocodile, with an adult male size range of 2.5 to 4.2 meters, and a weight between 125 to 180 kilograms. The largest of them have maxed out at almost twice this much, at about 325 kilograms. The crocodiles live mostly in the Congo rainforest basin and the sub-Saharan regions of Western Africa, where they swim and hunt in various marshy or swampy habitats. Relative to other crocodiles, the slender snout is of moderate or medium size, and it has a shy and reclusive disposition. They prefer these tropical lakes and inlets, bays and wetlands that are filled with vegetation, because this three-dimensional plant matrix gives them ample cover. They can easily hide themselves, either to sneak up on prey or to avoid larger crocodiles and terrestrial predators that might want to eat them. They're usually pretty solitary creatures, and in most cases you're only going to see them in groups during mating season, when they intermingle and find mates. After fertilization, the female will break down nearby plants and drag some woody debris around to make a lumpy nest that's about a half meter tall and about 1 to 2 meters wide. Within this nest, they'll lay around 16 to 20 really big eggs, like big eggs, even relative for other crocodiles, and they'll incubate them for about 100 days. The male eggs take a little less time to hatch, typically around 85 days. When the mother hears her newborns mewling their hatch cries, she'll break up the nest and crack open the eggs to help the rest of her babies hatch, and then she'll watch as they scurry away into the swampy water and the muddy undergrowth. Interestingly, the juveniles seem to be pretty sturdy right out of the box. They can run almost right away, and they have really sharp little teeth to fend off predators. They'll occasionally get caught up by a larger turtle or reptilian predator, but it's actually pretty uncommon. As their name suggests, the slender-snouted crocodiles have thin, slender snouts, which are more agile and better equipped for snatching fish in the water, and for sniping through the vegetation to catch surface-dwelling prey, like amphibians, crabs, turtles, even birds and small mammals sometimes fall prey to a slender-snouted crocodile. Number 9. The false gharial, with an adult male size reaching up to 4 or even 5 meters long, and weighing in around 190 to 210 kilograms. But individual false gharials can max out at around 500 kilograms. There have been huge false gharial skulls kept in museums, and if the skull-to-body length ratio that applies to the rest of the species also applies to these skulls, then these skulls belong to false gharials that were close to 6 meters in length. They're a dark, clay-like color, with dark spots along their back, and geographically, the false gharial range is limited to a portion of the Malay archipelago. They live on the tip of the Malaysian peninsula and on Sarawak, and on the Indonesian islands of Sumatra and Borneo. They used to live in Singapore and Thailand, but the people there could no longer tolerate the false gharials attacking their agricultural animals, and every now and then a human, so they rooted them out and destroyed them all, which is a process called extirpation. These false gharials share some major similarities with the slender-snouted crocodile. Namely, a long, slender snout that's lined with sharp, needle-like teeth. Other gharials also have narrow snouts. So what makes this the false gharial is that its snout flares out near the base, widening to fit onto the front of its large skull. They use these long snouts to hunt fish and crustaceans. They'll snatch up reptiles, waterfowl, and smaller mammals, including the various monkeys that hang out in the trees. These monkeys will taunt the false gharial, or they'll slip and fall in the water, and then get eaten. To reproduce, the false gharial will make mounds to lay their relatively large eggs in, but instead of incubating the leaves, which most other crocodiles do, the false gharials will just lay them and then leave. The eggs are abandoned, and when the juveniles hatch, they get no lesson or protection from their parents. They don't even get help hatching out of the egg and crawling out of the nest. As a result, the juveniles will often get snatched up by other predators, like mongooses, leopards, and wild dogs. Unfortunately, the once expansive range of the false gharial has been chipped away by human development, swamp drainage, pollution, and even extirpation efforts. As a result, their range has been fragmented, having dissolved into shrinking clusters and patches. This puts the false gharial at risk of population breakdown from genetic isolation. Number 8. The mugger crocodile, with an adult male size of 3 to 3.5 meters long, sometimes up to 5 meters long, and a broad adult weight range of between 160 kilograms to as much as 250 kilograms. That's just the more common weight range, as the largest mugger crocs that have ever been weighed came in at a meaty 700 kilograms, which is 3/4 of a ton. Unlike the slender snout crocodile and the false gharial, the mugger crocodile has a broad, heavy snout that applies crushing force over a wide area to totally ensnare and doom any creature that's unfortunate enough to be caught in its grasp. The mugger has a wide range spread across the Indian subcontinent, from Pakistan and southern Iran to Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the virtual entirety of India itself. Within this range, it prefers slower moving bodies of water, like freshwater lakes, marshes, and the riparian zone along the banks of rivers. When it walks along the ground, be it dry or muddy ground, or the floor of a lake or a river, they drag their belly on the ground. It will do most of its walking during the night, and spend the day basking and hunting in the water. They're usually pretty solitary creatures, but during the cold season, they'll get out and bask in the sun in large numbers, tolerating each other's presence for the chance to relax and to get as warm as possible in the otherwise cold weather. When it gets too hot, they'll burrow into the mud and soil, or they'll slide into the murky, watery shade to cool off. Their reproductive behaviors include digging out a nest hole at some safe distance from the edge of a river or a lake or some other body of water. They'll lay about 10 to 45 eggs per clutch, and they'll lay 1 or even 2 clutches into their nesting burrow. After the eggs are all laid, the mother will then bury them, and both parents may stay to protect the nest for up to 2 months, for the 2 months it takes for the eggs to hatch. The mother and father will then dig out their squirming, squealing newborns and carry them in their mouth to the water. These juvenile mugger crocs will enjoy their parents' protection and tutelage for about a year before they go out to live and hunt on their own. When they're hungry, they'll seek out a wide range of food, from fish, amphibians, and otters in the water to snakes, turtles, birds, rodents, ungulates, dogs, and monkeys that live on land. To catch larger mammals, like ungulates, they'll have to sneak up on them as they drink by a lake or a river, and then they'll jump up, bursting out of the water to grab at their neck, and then drag them underwater with their powerful jaws. The mugger crocodiles are one of only 2 reptiles known to use tools. Specifically, they will balance logs or pieces of wood on their snout, and they'll use this as a lure to attract birds. The birds, seeing some place to land on the water so that they can get close and perhaps peck at some fish, they'll see the wood floating on the water, and so they'll come down to land on it. Only when the bird gets close, the mugger will reveal itself with a snap of its crushing jaws, killing the bird. Number 7. The American alligator, also known more colloquially as the gator, which has an adult size of 200 to 400 kilograms, with a rarely attained maximum weight of 1,000 kilograms, which is well over a ton. The adult males grow to be 3.5 to 4 or even 5 meters long. The American alligators show relatively high phenotypic plasticity in response to their environment. For example, they live all across the American Southeast, but those gators that live in the northern regions of their range, where it's cooler and the vegetation and the prey populations aren't as dense, they tend to grow smaller. The gators in the southern end of the range, like those in Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and the coast of East Texas, are all larger and heavier. They also display a wide variety of colors, being some shade of black or dark green to a lighter brown or olive color. Another interesting aspect of the American alligator is that it has relatively mild sexual dimorphism. Most crocodilians have a large weight and size difference between males and females, and you'll notice that for this list I'm giving you the male weights and the male body sizes. But for the American gator, the difference between males and females is actually pretty small. Both males and females are huge monsters with broad, crushing jaws. They eat a wide range of foods, including the usual variety of fish, crustaceans, and small vertebrates, but they also eat sharks and manta rays, and even fruit, sometimes biting grapes or citrus fruits right off the branch. They'll even use lures to catch birds, like the mugger croc, making them the second of the two species of reptiles that use tools. During the dry season, they tend to dig deep burrows, or holes into the ground, called alligator holes. These can help them stay cool in the heat, but during the wet season, the holes are abandoned by the gators. But during the wet season, the holes will fill with water, and they'll retain this water through the dry season, and become a home to various crustaceans and even fish. These alligator holes can act as population reservoirs, so when the dry season ends and the wet season comes again, these creatures can leave the gator holes and repopulate. Because the gator holes are ecologically significant, the American alligator is considered a keystone species. They live in all manner of swamps, lakes, and ponds, and in rivers, like virtually all other crocodilians, but they'll even sometimes rest in the lower branches of trees. They feel vulnerable this high off the ground, and so if they're observed, they'll immediately return to the mud and water. They can also tolerate very cold air and water temperatures, surviving in water temps that are so cool they would kill other crocodilians. This cold tolerance is part of the reason why they're able to live in such higher latitudes than any other crocodilian. Number 6. The gharial, which weighs about the same as the American alligator, with an adult male weight of 250 to 400 kilograms, with the largest adults reaching about 1,000 kilograms. The reason they're considered bigger than the American alligator is because they're generally longer, at about 3.5 to 5.5 meters long. They used to live all over the northern expanses of the Indian subcontinent, in the forests and jungles surrounding the Indus and Ganges rivers. However, human expansion has largely destroyed the gharial's habitat, and in the modern day, they have less than 2% of their historical range, and their numbers have been absolutely devastated, with around 1,000 to 2,000 gharials remaining across the planet. Where they do still exist, they live sympatrically with the mugger crocodile, which shares its territory. This means that they generally avoid each other, living in separate regions of the habitat, with the mugger croc spending more time on land and the gharial more time in the water. This sympatric use of the habitat minimizes their competition, as they focus on finding prey in different parts of the habitat. The most characteristic feature of the gharial is its extremely long, thin snout, lined with a ton of small, needle-like teeth. This narrow, sword-like snout is easy to cut through the water, allowing them to hunt their aquatic prey with ease and efficiency. They swallow their prey whole, and so will eat stones to help crush and grind up their food inside their stomachs. This is a trait that some crocodilians share with birds, and with their dinosaur ancestors. At the tip of their snout, above their nostrils, the male gharials will start to grow a bulbous protuberance. This growth allows the males to make specific noises, like nasal hissing, or certain bubbling frequencies when underwater, and these noises are used in mating behaviors to signal sexual maturity, and to attract a mate. This is also where they get their name, as the nasal protuberance looks like a gara, which is a clay or earthen bowl used by local Pakistani, Indian, and Malaysian peoples. When digging their nests, the females will work together in groups. Each female gharial will lay 20 to 100 eggs, with each egg being larger than any other crocodilian egg. Instead of individual parents guarding individual nests, which is so common in other crocodilian species, in the gharials, a small number of males and females will stand guard over their community nesting sites. Of all of the crocodilians, the gharials have the most aquatic lifestyle. They have a well-developed swimming posture, and they rarely go on land. They've evolved to the point where they can't even walk fully upright when on land, and so the most they'll do is a crawl a bit out of the water to bask on the shore before turning around and slipping back into the water. Number 5, the American crocodile, with an adult male weight around 250 to 500 kilograms, with maximum weights around 1,000 kilograms, and an adult male length of 3 to 4.3 or even 5 meters long. So they're generally shorter than the longer, thinner, more agile gharial, but they're much bulkier, much wider, and heavier. These gigantic leviathan creatures lurk in the tropical wetlands, lakes, and rivers of Mesoamerica, with a range extending north into Cuba, along the west coast of Mexico, and even reaching into the southern tip of Florida. This range extends south through the entirety of Mesoamerica into the coastal wetlands, lakes, and forests in the northwestern corner of South America. The American crocodiles prefer these warmer tropical and subtropical regions because they can't tolerate the cold, and they'll die in areas with even remotely cool winters. This has limited their expansion into higher latitudes. The American crocodile has a dry, grayish-green coloration with a paler yellowish belly, which it drags on the ground as it walks. Although it is capable of lifting itself up into a high walk, which gives it a bit more speed and mobility, although it doesn't have the endurance to maintain this style of movement for long periods of time. It reserves this movement style for short, sprinting bursts to chase after prey. When reproducing, the females will collect plant detritus to build a big mound, and when it's time to lay their eggs, she'll dig diagonally into the side of the mound to create a space for them. She'll lay her eggs inside, and then stand guard and diligently protect her nest for the 75 to 80 days that it takes for the eggs to hatch. When the young do hatch, they'll start to make little croaking noises, which will alert the mother to their birth. She'll come and help dig out the rest of them and scoop them up in her mouth and take them to the nearest water source. She'll guard them and help feed them for about 5 months before they go out to live on their own. These juvenile crocodiles are in serious danger, as they're often attacked and consumed by all manner of predatory fish, predatory birds, and mammals, and so they grow to maturity quickly, by necessity. Because the mature adult American crocodile is so big, it will eat virtually anything that it comes across. The usual variety of fish, reptiles, birds, and small mammals that sustains most other crocodilians can all be eaten with a single bite by the American crocodile. Its powerful jaws allow it to grab larger mammals like ungulates or even big cats and pull them into the water. It can also kill cattle, making it a particular nuisance for ranchers and farmers. They are also dangerous for humans, and they're more likely to attack a human than any other crocodilian in North or South America. Number 4, the black caiman, with an adult male weight around 300 to 510 kilograms, and a maximum weight of 1,100 kilograms. They grow to about the same length as the American crocodile, but they edge them out by being a little bit beefier. It is the largest member of the family Alligatoridae, larger even than the American alligator. The caiman are a group of crocodilians most closely related to the alligators, but you can tell them apart because the caiman have scales that fuse and overlap, and their teeth are longer and narrower. They also have a bony ridge extending from above their eyes down the length of their snout. The black caiman is by far the largest and the heaviest, unusually so, with large eyes, an unusually thick, long, and sturdy skull, and a titanic bite force. When the black caiman reproduces, they build about 1.5 meter wide nests and lay between 30 and 60 eggs. It takes just 40 to sometimes 90 days for the eggs to hatch. On the shorter end of that spectrum, you have a rapid incubation period, but that's good because the Amazon jungle is a very dangerous place. The mother black caiman has to vigilantly guard her nest, because if she leaves it absent too long, the eggs will be gobbled up by a wide variety of possible predators, be they snakes, herons, vultures, or large rodents. It's difficult for the mother black caiman, as her offspring are very independent and do not want to be corralled or mothered, and as a result, as juveniles, they suffer from an extremely high mortality rate. Because the jungle is so dangerous, they depend on raw quantity to make sure enough juveniles make it into adulthood. As its name suggests, the black caiman is very dark green, almost black, but it also has gray and tan colored banding along its lower jaw, and juveniles and younger adults have a white or yellow banding along their sides. This dark coloration is camouflage, and it also retains heat, helping them stay warm in the darkness under the jungle canopy. They are apex predators that are large enough and deadly enough to capture and kill virtually any other animal they come across. And because these carnivores live in the deep heart of the Amazon rainforest, they come across other animals quite frequently. They mostly eat fish, which densely populate the Amazon's river systems, but they also like to eat smaller and medium-sized mammals like capybaras, tapirs, pacas, sloths, anacondas, and various monkeys. They'll even eat big cats like jaguar and cougars, which is perhaps why these big cats will avoid bodies of water known to have black caiman. The abundance of food allows them to grow to massive sizes, and it also allows them to coexist with other predators, because they aren't too stressed by competition. But it also helps that they're the largest predator in the Amazon basin. Number 3, the Orinoco crocodile, with an adult male weight around 380 to 650 kilograms, maxing out at around 1100 kilograms. They tend to grow to be about 3.7 to 4.9 meters long, and unfortunately, it's extremely endangered. Where the Orinoco crocodile once used to live across the coastlines, swamps, marshes, forests, and rivers in the northern reaches of South America, today their range has been greatly reduced and it's limited to the single Orinoco River basin, the Los Llanos grassland plains of Colombia and Venezuela. This is due in no small part to human hunting. There once used to be Orinocos that were 6 or even 7 meters long, but these titanic predators have all been wiped out. The Orinoco has a narrow, triangular snout, which it uses to hunt for fish and crustaceans in the Orinoco River and its tributaries and marshes. While its diet primarily consists of fish, it will eat anything that it comes across, including everything up to, and maybe even including, the largest vertebrates. Their vast bulk makes them implacable foes, able to grab anything, even large oxen, and with their thick tails acting as a counterbalance, they'll pull them from the shore and down into the depths of the water, where they'll drown. Their reproduction behaviors begin with the male making loud roars. The females are attracted to the males with the deepest roars, and so a small minority of deep-voiced males will father the vast majority of the resultant eggs. The females will dig out a nest near the riverbank and then lay somewhere around 40 eggs. The mother will cover her eggs with sand, mud, and dead plant matter to incubate them for about 3 months. The mother will protect her eggs during this time, and she'll protect her juvenile offspring for about 1 to 3 years after they hatch. This period can be very stressful, as the fertile biome in which they live provides numerous predators that will kill the small juveniles. The mother Orinoco will get used to killing things, like vultures and tegu lizards, in the defense of her nest. However, once they reach maturity, there is nothing in the river valley that can kill them, except for humans with their advanced technology, and only the largest, strongest, and bravest jaguars. Number 2, the Nile crocodile, with an adult male weight around 350 to 750 kilograms, and a maximum weight of 1100 kilograms. They're the same length and very similar weight to the Orinoco crocodile, and so they're only considered bigger because their average weight is slightly higher. The Nile crocodile, as its name suggests, lives in the Nile River Valley, mostly in the Nile's upper tributaries, but it also lives across a huge range in sub-Saharan Africa, existing across the center of the continent. They can live in a wide range of habitats, from freshwater lakes, marshes, and swamps to fast and slow-moving rivers to wetland forests, although they generally prefer the more open habitats, with bodies of water that aren't too cluttered and claustrophobic with vegetation. So in this sense, it's quite the opposite of the slender snouted crocodile, way down at number 10. Rather curiously, there's a population of Nile crocodiles that live on the island of Madagascar, where they reside in caves. For the most part, they are lazy creatures, spending the bulk of their day basking in the sun and cooling off by opening up their mouth to evaporate water. This is like the crocodilian analog of sweating, but gaping the mouth open can also be a threat display to other Nile crocodiles. To quantify this threat, consider that in large adults, their bite force can reach up to 5,000 pounds per square foot. During the mating season, males will roar and bellow, and make other noises like blowing air out of their nose or slapping the water's surface. These aggressive noises will attract females, and challenge other males to contests over territory. These battles can be incredible, with the massive creatures throwing their bulk at each other in conflicts that can often maim and even lead to death. Oddly, male-female courtship behaviors are pretty gentle, but the actual act of mating is once again violent and dangerous. Once fertilization has taken place and the female has produced some eggs, she will dig a sideways slanted hole into the riverside soil and lay 25 to 80 eggs. The eggs are buried in sand, mud, and soil, and left to incubate for 3 months. The mother will guard the nest and then care for her juveniles for about 2 years after they hatch. The mothers even have a pouch in their throat that's specifically meant to hold the juveniles as they get carried around. When the Nile crocodiles hunt in the water, they're fast and agile, able to sneak up on and surprise land-based animals. When they hunt on land, their size can actually slow them down. They can walk quickly on land, but only in short, sprinting bursts. And so, as a result, the majority of their hunting uses a stalk and ambush strategy, allowing them to expend minimal energy approaching their prey, and then only expending a lot of energy for a few intense seconds to launch themselves forward, catch the prey, and then drag them underwater to drown. An interesting and rather terrifying aspect of the Nile crocodile is that they tend to hunt outside of their normal range, launching their surprise attacks on animals that maybe have never even seen a crocodile before. They'll also hide under the water where birds dive and feed, so the birds will often dive right into the crocodile's mouth, only realizing what's happening when it's far too late to escape. These crocodiles sneak out to where they're least expected, and then strike with deadly effectiveness. The Nile crocodile is also one of the most aggressive crocodilians, and is known to hunt and kill humans. And finally, number 1, the saltwater crocodile, the largest currently living crocodilian on the planet, coming in with an average adult male weight of around 450 to 1,000 kilograms, with some individuals reaching a maximum weight of 2,000 kilograms. They can grow to be some of the longest crocodilians too, from 4.3 to 5.5 to even 6 meters in length. These titanic monstrosities have a range that extends from the eastern coast of India across the entire Malay archipelago, all the way to the northern coast of Australia. The saltwater croc has a large, broad snout, triangular in shape to the extent that it's twice as wide at the base as it is at the tip. It has fewer large armor plates than other crocodilians, filling in the space with a larger number of smaller scales. To hunt, they depend on surprise attacks. They can engage in these powerful bursts of speed, where they move so fast that it seems almost impossible considering their bulk, but because of their bulk, they can't keep up this pace for very long. They depend on long stretches of lethargy, interrupted by sudden, dramatic attacks characterized by colossal thrashing and snapping of jaws. Their diet is pretty generalist, as they'll eat virtually anything that has the misfortune to get near their jaws. They'll eat the usual fish, crustaceans, amphibians, and small vertebrates. They'll eat the small and medium-sized vertebrates like rodents and monkeys, deers, foxes, and otters, and they'll even capture and eat wild boar, kangaroos, tigers, buffalo, and the rest of some of the biggest ungulates. In the water, they'll hunt and eat sea turtles, dugongs, and even sharks and manta rays. When given the opportunity, they may even attempt to attack orangutans and even elephants. A general rule is that no matter how big the prey animal is, if it gets within striking distance, the saltwater croc will attempt to capture and eat it. To reproduce, the saltwater crocodile will invest minimal effort in making a crude mud nest somewhere along the shores of a river. They'll dig a hole into the side of the mud pile so that they can lay about 40 to 60 eggs inside. And then they'll cover up the hole with dead vegetation, which as it decays will actually help to keep the inside of the nest very warm. When the eggs hatch, about 80 to 90 days later, the mother will help dig them out and carry them to water. But the young are really aggressive and violent, and they'll fight amongst each other. In short order, just 8 months later, 8 months after they hatch, they'll go out to live on their own. Although the young saltwater crocs are prey for numerous species, and only 1% of them make it to adulthood, those that do make it are huge, and they no longer have any natural predators. Nothing can kill them, with the technical exception of a group of humans armed with tools and weapons. And as a result, these saltwater crocodiles can live to be 70, 80, 90, or even more than 100 years old. But after making it to about 2.5 years old, when they're still very young, they start to become very territorial. And because they're so aggressive, they can't stand to be near each other. Saltwater crocs are notorious man-eaters. They see humans as little more than any other edible animal, right there next to the wild boars, the dugongs, and the monkeys. It's recommended to completely avoid saltwater crocodile habitats. While they're generally annoyed by humans and will simply move away from them if approached or antagonized, if the human gets too close in their territory, the crocs can be very aggressive, and if the crocodile can make contact with a solid bite, the victim is almost certainly doomed. If anything, they're definitely going to lose a limb. There are multiple stories of capsized ships spilling their passengers into the water, or soldiers being diverted into swamps, only for the saltwater crocs to come out and attack and eat them all. The saltwater crocodiles are true monsters, the largest crocodilians, and the largest reptiles to walk the earth today. Alright, now that we've gone through the 10 largest crocodilians, as an extra bonus, I want to include an extinct crocodilian species, the SARCOSUCHUS imperator. This beast lived 112 million years ago, across the landscape that is now Africa and South America. They are one of the largest crocodilian species to ever exist, coming in at more than 7,000 kilograms, with a snout to tail length between 11 and 12 meters. These Mesozoic nightmares were twice as long as a saltwater crocodile, and they had jaws so large that they would have been able to consume a fully grown man with a single bite. It likely did not engage in the death roll behavior common to other crocs to break and tear apart the flesh of their prey. But instead, the SARCOSUCHUS imperator could just kill its prey by crushing it with the unbelievable pressure that its jaws could produce. So there you go, the 10 largest living species in this crazy lineage of predatory monsters that have stalked the world's wetlands and riparian zones for hundreds of millions of years.